During our Farm Basics time today, we're going to talk a little about farming after dark.
One thing about this time of year is we get less hours of sunlight. And when farmers are trying to do some harvesting, well, they run out of daylight pretty quick. So you may say, is it just because we only have a few hours of daylight that farmers are harvesting at night? That's part of it, but one of the bigger reasons is just that there's a limited window of time for farmers to harvest the crop at the right moisture percentage. So when we're looking at the grain, when they're hauling it to a grain elevator or an ethanol plant or even to a livestock feeder, they want the grain at a certain percentage so it can store or process correctly. So for farmers, when they get the grain to that certain moisture percentage, they may only have a few days or even a few hours to get it harvested timely. So when it hits that stage, farmers are going to roll whether it's day or night.
All right, one of the things I like about farming at night is the wind is a lot calmer. Where we farm in South Dakota, the wind seems to be blowing really hard a lot of days during the fall. October is one of our very windiest months, so I hate that. But a lot of times we get to evening, and especially overnight, the wind's much calmer. Now, the biggest downside I see to farming after dark is safety. Safety is a huge factor on farms all over the world. This is one of the riskiest professions, and I'll just be upfront with you, there are a lot more accidents after dark than there are in the daylight. So fortunately, we have a lot better technology today than we used to, a lot better cabs. You can see a lot more things, much better lights. We're so happy that a lot of these manufacturers of equipment have put a lot better technology into their lights, halogen lights for the most part, and lights almost everywhere. So I really like that. Even around our farmyard, I have lights on every building. I have them on every night. I mean, it's actually really good compared to what it used to be. But nevertheless, we as farmers just have to be a lot more careful at night because we can't see everything like we can in the daylight.
Also, communication has greatly improved with cell phones and radios that farmers are using to be able to talk to one another, to just know who's in the field, where they're at, what they're up to. That's really handy because you don't want any kind of surprise at night, and it's certainly a lot easier to happen. The other thing that's nice is GPS guidance and auto steer technology in many of the pieces of equipment that farmers are using. So let's just take, for example, two brothers maybe working in the same field with two different tractors and implements. Well, we know exactly where each other is at, and we also can see where we've been and where we haven't been much easier than if we were just doing it by trying to look around and see what's happening in the field. So it keeps us away from each other, and it also keeps us on the same path so we don't run into each other.
Okay, a few last quick things. Spraying at night is actually just fine. I don't have a big problem with that as long as the temperature's okay and you don't have a bunch of dew on the leaves. In terms of doing tillage at night, that's actually preferred because there are some weeds that, believe it or not, just flipping them over in the daylight, that's enough to trigger germination. So if you don't want to trigger germination, you do your tillage at night. That can really help. I guess the last thing that I'll leave you with all this night work that farmers have to do is when we start talking about working at night, very often people are tired at that point. And our dad would very often say, hey, look, we're not going to work 24/7. And the reason why is safety. I don't want you working more than about 16, 18 hours a day just because when it's dark and you're tired, now that's when accidents really start to happen. So we would just say, if you are a farmer, please be careful, please use your head, please try to get some good night's sleep throughout harvest in order to be safe.
Well, one thing that's definitely not safe when we're out in the fields is this weed. Can you identify our weed of the week?